All right. Welcome back to Control the Narrative. I'm your Chief Controller, Tonya McKenzie. Today, we're talking about something that doesn't get enough airtime. HBCUs, specifically Delaware State baseball, specifically a man named Pedro Swann. He played in the majors and came home to rebuild. You know, I love a good comeback home story, and this is definitely one of those. The narrative around college baseball is always about big money, big conferences, big programs. It's rarely about strategy, rarely about legacy, and almost never about the Black institutions producing talent without the resources. That changes today, at least with me. So let's get into it and welcome Pedro. Hi.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure and honor being on here and talking about baseball and talking about my alma mater, Delaware State.
I am so honored to have you here. One, I checked your background and I checked your current situation, and I'm surprised you even have time with all that you are doing currently. So, thank you for taking the time today. What's going on campus? We're back to school. Like, tell me the vibe, and what are you looking forward to this year?
The vibe is excitement. I mean, I'm moving back in on campus right now. All the students are returning back. Everyone's excited. Classes start next week, and we start our practice the very following week. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm beginning my third year. A lot of things, happened during my first 2 years in this third year. I always say, the third time is the charm. So, I'm ready to go. I'm excited about the team this year, excited about the new players, just excited about getting everybody out on the field and, seeing them men together and grow as a team.
I love that. Pedro, let's start here. You were drafted by the Atlanta Braves in 1991.
Yeah.
You played for three major league organizations: the Braves, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles. That's like a professional career most kids dream about. Okay. You hit 421 at Delaware State as a student athlete. That's still the school record, from what I was told. Still not broken. And you were inducted into the Delaware State Hall of Fame in 2001, I believe. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So you
Yes.
left, you built a life in professional baseball, you founded Pro Swing Sports Academy in Delaware, and you coached at University of Maryland Eastern Shores. Like this, that's a lot. That is a lot, and you still want to keep going with all of that. Why bother coming back and doing this? Because one thing I know for sure is coaching is not easy. Okay, everybody that played can't coach. So at a time when most people would be like, "Cool, I've done it all. I'm in the record books. Boom, I'm out. I'm about to go kick it." You are not. Please explain.
Just man, as a young kid, I mean, I just always had a passion for the game. Always wanted to be involved in the game. When I finished playing, I always said to myself that I wanted to go back to my hometown and teach the game, teach what I've learned, from the many great coaches that I had, and just help kids learn from the experiences that I went through. Just how to get to that next level. How to prepare yourself, the work that goes into it. Delaware State, that's my alma mater, and just being given the opportunity to come back and give back to a program, to a school, university that's given so much to me. I mean, it's just beyond my belief that I'm in this situation. So I'm definitely going to make the most out of it and get this program to be in the best program that possibly can be.
When you decided to come back, what did you see when you looked at the program? What did you see was missing that you felt like you could fill that void and build that program where it was at?
The coach before me, I'm really good friends with. We grew up in the same hometown, and he did a tremendous job. When I was playing at Delaware State my freshman year, we're still the only team that won the MEAC conference at Delaware State. You know, the division and the conference got a lot tougher years after I went. It was a lot tougher to win the conference, but it was something they never did, but they got close to it, and it wasn't for any lack of effort by the former coach's part. I just I thought I could just come in here and help them get over the hump. With taking it to that next level, taking it to that next stage, and putting this program on the map. So when guys and teams seeing Delaware State, they had them on the map, that they know they better be prepared and ready to come to play.
Man, so you've talked about going back home, giving back. You've talked about legacy. You didn't talk about money. So let's address that directly, okay? I ugh, and people don't really like talking about money, but I think it's necessary because HBCUs are chronically underfunded. Okay, and we know that. That's not an opinion, that's documented. Delaware State baseball is it's a championship capable program with a fraction of the resources that schools get, at least down I-95. So you just took a job where you have to build infrastructure, not just a winning record. How much of the fundraising are you doing right now? And who is supporting you through that, understanding how important this is?
Yeah, with me coaching at HBCU, with it being baseball, and what I explain to a lot of people is, a lot of HBCUs, the resources are limited, and the programs that don't generate revenue, have a tough time, getting a huge budget designated for their, for their particular sport, and with HBCU and Delaware State being a baseball program, it doesn't really generate any revenue. We don't charge for admission. It's almost like we're a bill to the university because we're not really, bringing in revenue, in exchange. So, or the budget that we're given is limited. So a lot of things that we need done, like field improvements, even getting new uniforms, we have to do a lot of fundraising on our own. Our program is, kind of self-sufficient. So, the more money we raise, the better things we can have, like the, BP warm-ups before the games. I know that might sound, minimal, but little things like that add up. The cost for shoes. Right now we just got our turf, or got our field resodded with grass on the infield, and it looks really nice. But we need screens now to protect that, so we can have the longevity of that nice looking infield. And things like that aren't really put in our budget, so we got to raise our own money to get things like that. Even with our staff. We just have, as a head coach, I just have one paid assistant. So, you need more than just two people to run a college program, and that kind of hurts us a little bit with building a staff where we can have a coach for the catchers, have a coach for the infielders, have a coach for the outfielders, have a hitting coach, have a pitching coach. All those things cost money, and when your budget is limited, it's tough just to fill those roles. So, we have a lot of guys doing jobs of 3 or 4 people. So just little things like that. And, I tell people, if you're looking to get rich, don't get into college baseball, because, there's not a lot of money designated for that. So, I have to try to do something where we raise money just so when our volunteer coaches come, they're not getting paid for the season, but just, something where they can take care of their gas, getting back and forth from their home, to the field. So just, little things like that with limited resources make it tough, for a, program and HBCU baseball programs like ours, just, trying to, compete and, just, stay afloat.
The fact that you can't just coach at an HBCU, you have to fundraise. You also have to recruit differently, right? You have to build institutional support in a way that maybe a PWI doesn't. That's not that's not really a coaching problem though. That's a resource problem. How do you fix that long term? Or is there a solution long term?
Well, the biggest thing is just learning of different fundraising opportunities. For one, me being on this show, and just because a lot of people don't understand what it takes, and what programs like ours that have limited resources, what they need, and what the resources are for. A lot of people think we do fundraising. It's just so the coaches can get paid extra money, but just to kind of give you an example. We got an offer to go play, Alabama State University, which is a HBCU, out, in Alabama, and they were going to give us a guarantee to come out there, but it just for us just to afford flights to go out there, or to get a bus and to go out there, it wasn't in our budget to be able to do it. So a lot of times in the beginning of the season, HBCU, especially on in the cold weather, we go down south to play, so instead of playing like, the Miamis and, South Carolinas and teams like that, I would rather open the season playing HBCUs. But, just because of budget reasons, we have to kind of stay on this East Coast and, play games, just because it costs so much to travel over there. But, that was always a dream of mine, like go down and play the teams in the SWAC, in schools like that, like the Prairie Views, the Jackson States, the Southerns, just to kind of, I know when I was at Delaware State, it was always like a competition, like, the MEAC versus the SWAC, who had bragging rights. But, it's hard to have bragging rights when, we're not playing against each other. So, just things like that, just, to be able to travel to different places and, have the, things like the other, top tier Division I baseball programs have. We have to, fundraise to get those type of things.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So you're not just inheriting a program though. You're inheriting 30 years of the previous regime. That
Absolutely.
is a legacy in itself. That's a foundation. How do you honor that while positioning yourself as a change agent to the team, to the school?
I just know always when I played, I wanted to, put Delaware State on the map, whether it was, getting that big hit, to get the win, for our team. It's just, legacy. My mother and father both attended here at Delaware State.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Delaware State. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles that attended Delaware State. So just, wanting to come back and, seeing this program prosper and, take it to that next level. Whether it's, to get known nationally or, just to win our conference. Like I said, when I was a freshman, we were the first Delaware State team to win our conference. So, now that I'm the head coach, I want us to be the first Delaware State team to win this NEC conference, which we play in now, since there is no longer a MEAC baseball conference. But just, like I said, I mean, I went to Delaware State football games growing up. I'm always a big fan. Like I said, I had a lot of family. And, it's not like I'm receiving any pressure from, anyone to do well, but it's just myself wanting, being a proud alumni of the school, just wanting to, like I said, take that program to the next level. And, where we're thought of like as a Bethune-Cookman, being an HBCU, you don't really hear too many, baseball, teams get, heard or whatever. But Bethune-Cookman, they, beat a lot of top 20 teams last year. And, I want to be known like, like a school like that, be held in high regards.
Since I've heard so much about Delaware State. There's a lot of alumni on my timeline, and they love to shout out. Actually, there's a lot of HBCU folks on my timeline. I went to Grambling for about 5 minutes before I had to fight off flying roaches. I didn't really know how to deal with that. They didn't prepare me for that when I came from California. But I love a good HBCU. I have a lot of people on my timeline. What I know for sure is that we love HBCU sports, but not everybody be supporting baseball like they should. So my question for you is, how do you get and keep the community bought in to what you are building / rebuilding?
One thing is we're getting involved with the local Little League, Dover Little League, just to kind of,
Okay.
yeah, we're doing, they hosted the regionals for the intermediate 12 or 11 to 13 division, where they do the, I want to say 50-70 instead of standard Little League baseball play. So, Delaware State was a huge supporter and sponsor of that tournament. So me and my coaching staff, we, made it a point to go out to the games and, kind of support, the teams out there and support the league. Me and my coaches right now, we're in discussions of, working with Dover Little League this fall, supporting their fall program, just kind of putting faces, to the name of Delaware State baseball, getting back out in the community, because our baseball field, for the last 4 years, now that we're playing at the old Wesley College baseball field, is just in a down and is in a like a neighborhood community area where the field is right in the middle of a community. So we want to get more involved with the community and, get people out and around the area, downtown area, Dover, to come to baseball, come, support us. Like I said earlier, it doesn't cost anything to come to our games. But we just need to get out in the community so people can, put the face to the name and recognize it and see us. We're just average people, just around, that love and enjoy baseball and want the support of the community.
Yeah, I love it. But you're not average. I read your stats. You're a little humble. I can appreciate that, I guess. But you probably should be letting them know, like, actually, I am a pretty big deal. I'm kind of a big deal. It's okay to let them know. And you let them know you know what you're doing. I love that. But speaking of that, what does a championship pipeline look like for you? Like, talk to me about player development at DSU.
Yeah, I'm huge on player development, and it's the first 2 years. Just I've been recruiting a lot of young, like out of high school. I haven't really tampered into the or tapped into the portal. I did a little more this past off season with the portal, but with just me coming up with the Braves and spending so much time in the minor leagues, and with the Braves being huge on player development and so great at it, naturally, I'm looking at development. So just recruiting, I have certain things I look at. A lot of people look for immediate results, but I kind of look at a person and kind of look where they would be, 2 to 3 years from now, or 1 to 2 years from now. Just I look at little things that I can work on and help them develop and build the tools, the natural tools that they already have, just to become a better player. I'm huge on speed. I'm huge on defense, and just doing little things of the game. Base running. I'm huge on base running and bunting, which I say is the lost art of baseball. I'm bringing that back with Delaware State, bringing speed back to the game. Now you watch the big leagues, you see a lot of guys just hitting home runs, but I'm from the old school. I'm not afraid to hit and run. Bunt a guy over to get him in a situation. Manufacturing baseball runs. Playing the game hard, and just guys with speed taking extra bases and putting the pressure on the defense. So I think like little things like that can help us get over the hump and not just compete with teams, but go out there and beat these teams.
Hey, I love a good small ball team. I love it. It's actually the fun ball to watch. So I hear you saying that you're not trying to play someone else's game. You are
Exactly.
doing things differently, and I love that. You're building a different type of program. I think that's huge. How do you make sure your players understand that um, as they're being recruited and once you guys get started? Because sometimes, especially young players, I think in their mind, they might romanticize what the process looks like, but your job is obviously to keep them locked in on what's real and what's in front of them, right?
Absolutely. And even when I recruit guys and I talk to them, they ask what type of ball player I'm looking for, and I'm just I'm looking for all types of ball players, and just I don't want someone that plays a certain type of game to try to change their game to fit into how we play. So that eliminates a lot of the issues with guys thinking that I'm trying to change their game, because I know the type of baseball game that I like to play and the type of player that I'm looking for. So when I'm out scouting and recruiting, I look for that type of player. So when I go to approach them, and I tell them, hey, I like how you run I like your speed, I like how you run the bases. With our program, we're real aggressive on the bases. We're not afraid to steal a base or try to steal a third, in different situations, or put on a hit and run. So, I see, the type of game they play, and if it'll fit into our program. If it's not a type of game that doesn't fit in our program, I kind of, avoid those players. So, guys don't really have to make too much adjustment once they get recruited to our program, because, they're already that type of ball player.
What's your advice to baseball parents as they're matriculating through high school to get to be able to play for someone like you?
I would say, do your research on our program. You can even go like to the box scores and look at, the stats of guys, and, see like stolen base attempts, or, just kind of look and see, oh man, he doesn't have a lot of guys that hit a lot of home runs, but he got a lot of guys that hit 300. He has a lot of guys that hits a lot of doubles, has a lot of guys that steals a lot of bases. So, they can, and parents can, they can feel free to email me, and, pick my brain, what type of person I'm looking for. Hey, my son is such and such, or have their, child reach out to me. Hey, this is my type of game I play. Here's video of me. I think I would fit into your program. Do you see me, being a player, in your program in the future? So, that's the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if it's a school, that you're interested in, and they have, like the major of your choice. Like look at the program and see, what type of team they play, how they play the game. And like I say, email the coach and, ask questions. And, I'm not the best at answering emails, but, if you email has something that attracts my attention, I definitely, respond to them.
Coach, baseball is pretty much year round now for youth sports. But I remember a time where you had an off season. That's not really a thing anymore. How do you feel about that and how baseball has changed over the years?
Yeah, the biggest thing I don't like with how baseball's changed, it's like, you're forcing the baseball players to stop playing other sports just because it's going year round all the time. You have your fall ball, then you have your winter workouts, and then you have your spring season, then you have your summer season, then fall ball comes around. So it's always constantly, going where you never stop. I'm a fan of the multi-sport athlete. I definitely recruit multi-sport athletes. We have, a guy on our team currently now that's on the football team here at Delaware State, and we have another guy that he just actually came to one of our showcase events that we had, and he's currently on the football team right now. He didn't get recruited for baseball, but he wants to play baseball. So, I'm not against recruiting the multi-sport athlete. Like I said, I actually prefer it. Just shows their versatility and that they're athletic.
Talk about your influence for a bit. Who were some of your favorite players growing up?
Oh man, I was a huge Ozzie Smith fan.
Mm,
I just that was my team growing up, the St. Louis Cardinals. Just because they played the game that I'm trying to implement here at Delaware State. They were hitting and running, they were bunting, getting guys over. They weren't a big home run hitting team, but they specialized on playing defense and timely hitting. Also, Dusty Baker was one of my favorite players growing up. He was actually the reason I wore number 12 when I first started playing baseball, just because I watched Dusty Baker when he played for the Dodgers. So a huge fan of his. Just being here in Philly, I was a fan of Mike Smith, Michael Jack Smith, as they would say on the TV when he hit a home run. But I'm trying to think who else I was fans of. Man, I just had so many players. Dwight Gooden, Doc
mm.
Good, huge fan of his. Man, I mean, the list can go on. And, I mean, just I was big because I'm a left-handed hitter, so I was huge, left-handed hitter fan. So I remember my dad was a big Reggie Jackson fan, so we would always watch the Yankees when I was growing up. So I always tell people that even though I grew up a Cardinals fan, the Braves drafted me, I became a Braves fan. But in the American League, I was always a Yankees fan just because that was my dad's team. But it's that's speaking of Reggie Jackson, Dave Winfield. I mean, Tommy Herr with St. Louis Cardinals, Will Clark. I mean, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, the list goes on. So I'm a huge baseball fan.
It's good to see you rattle off those names and they bring a smile to your face. We went to the Barry Bonds, I think it was his Jersey retirement, and I cried like a freaking baby. Like, and Dusty was there and the whole thing. But what is the last emotional moment that you had with baseball?
As a player or as a coach?
Either.
Let me see. Emotional. Let me see. Baseball. I would say in 2003, definitely when I hit my first home run in the major leagues off Roger Clemens. I mean, I can still picture myself running around the bases and just the thoughts that were going through my head. I was running, around the bases. So that definitely was an emotional high for me. Just experiencing that, a childhood dream, hitting a home run in the major leagues, and with it being off the legendary pitcher Roger Clemens. I mean, it doesn't get too much, better than that.
What ended your career?
I'm sorry.
What ended your career?
Well, into my career, it's funny. It wasn't playing ability because I felt like when I retired, I was at the top of my game. It felt like I just figured everything out, at the time as far as what I needed to do to get ready. You know, what my approach was hitting, what my role was, if I was a pinch runner going in late or a defensive replacement going in late. Um, but just I've lost my train of thought there. Lose that question. I started reminiscing.
As I hope you would, because I think it's important to continue to hold those moments close to your heart.
Yeah. Oh,
I think
coaching,
that's dope.
emotional moment. That's what it was. Coaching, just probably the biggest emotional moment at Delaware State. Coaching, I would say just how we ended the season last year. We finished really strong, winning our last two conference series, and just to see how we struggled in the beginning and how we finished up strong, and just the reaction of the team, and like they were like, man, all this work, the coaches wasn't lying to us. If we do this day in and day out, we put ourselves in a better position to win. And just seeing them like get over the hump and realizing, how good they could become and how good they are, that was just like a reward within itself.
And you had someone get drafted, yeah?
Yes, Michael Lane. He was our Friday starter guy, and it was my second year coaching him. It's funny because I know Michael Lane for a couple of years. Him and my son went to high school together, so I
Oh,
followed
wow.
I followed his career in high school. Followed his freshman year when he was in college before I got here, and then actually to get a chance to coach him. His sophomore and his junior year this past year was just he put so much work into the game. He worked so hard. He's getting everything he deserved. I mean, he's great on the field, great off the field, great character, great family. I mean, I'm just so happy for him and his family. And I think that name Michael Lane, you're going to be hearing for years because his work ethic and his athletic ability. I mean, that's going to take him to that next level.
I love this. So let's get back to this money piece
Yeah.
because the fundraiser is going to be starting. And Friday is the launch, even though this will air a little later than that. You're asking the community, alumni, and supporters of Delaware State Athletics to invest in this program. Make this concrete for people that are watching. What specifically is that money going to be building? What's the gap between where the program is and where it needs to be? And
Well, number one, the biggest expense is we just upgraded our stadium last year for the season. We added TrackMan, which gives spin rate, velocity, exit velo, what the pitcher's throwing, whether it's in the strike zone or not. We added that to our program. With today's game, being so analytical, and scouts and things like that come to the game, we thought this would be a big upgrade for our program. And once we got it installed and up and working, I just noticed how our strike zone got better. When umpires noticed we had TrackMan system, at our field. I never is one to be hard on umpires, but some of the calls they made were suspect. But after we got that TrackMan implemented, and it tells you whether a ball's a strike or not, the umpiring got a lot better. So that's one of the biggest expenses that we have come in. Also, we're looking to add windscreens to our outfield fence. That's something that's not in our budget given to us by the university. So it's something we have to raise the money on our own. So, portion of that money would go towards upgrading our field, as far as getting the necessary screens, to maintain the nice looking side that we got put down. Also, travel expenses, like I mentioned earlier, just we were unable to go to Alabama State for this season, 2027, just because we couldn't afford the travel expenses, even though they were going to take care of, a lot of our expenses once we got to Alabama, like our meals and hotels and things like that, which, is unfortunate we couldn't get out there. But things like that. Also, just equipment, like getting guys like batting practice tops and, just, all the other places we go to, we see, other teams with things that we're lacking, and just something I think our kids deserve that, just to have what's considered, standard for other universities. It's like, we have to raise money for. So, things like that. Also, we're looking at doing more team bonding events. We have a big football game at the Link in Philadelphia where the Eagles play, even though I don't like the Eagles at all. I'm the Cowboys. That's another topic. Hopefully.
yeah, that's another conversation.
But yeah, just things like bonding, and last year we went up to the game when we played Norfolk State at the Link, and that wasn't free for us to go up there. So now we're looking at incorporate the expenses that we had going up there supporting our football team. That's one of the things that money from this fundraiser will go towards, and even scholarships. Just we're limited with the amount of scholarships. So if we have some money where we can offer kids, a little more, athletic assistance, and expenses of colleges, that'd be awesome as well. So, just, a myriad of things that we have that, like I said, we lack the resources, with our normal budget that we have to raise for. So, we have a lot of things we're trying to do, and, that takes money, like redoing our batting cage. Our outdoor batting cage took a hit with the rough winter last year. Our nets got, quite a few holes put in them from the snow being on it and the ice and everything. So, we need new nets for our batting cages. we need to lay new turf down in our batting cages. So just little things like that just make it a little more easy or a little easier for our guys just to get prepared for the game and have our field look nice, like other ballparks we play in. A lot of things like that was where, this money's going towards. It's not going, towards any individual or anything like that. It's strictly expenses, from the baseball team.
Coach, why should someone who's not even a baseball fan, and I don't even want to get into what's wrong with people if they're not a baseball fan, but why should they even care about Delaware State baseball and contribute to this program? Talk to them about that.
Just HBCU baseball. I mean, we over the last, I want to say 8 to 10 years, like teams like North Carolina Central, schools like Howard University, just because of funding reasons, they had to drop their baseball program. So, we want to avoid that here at Delaware State. Our resources aren't always the best for the baseball team, and we would hate to see our program disappear just because of resources. And it happens every year, but baseball, it's huge history, just in the Black community with baseball. I mean, you had the Negro Leagues, and it was like almost like a big party with the baseball games, and that's kind of how the HBCU was. I wouldn't say it was a big party. We out there seriously competing, but we're out there having fun. It's not like it's not like watching a golf match or anything like that. We play the game like a little more emotion and just a lot more into the game. And I just think losing HBCU baseball, that kind of hurts. Just the alley that for individuals that can't play in a Power Five, but HBCU is the only resource for them to play baseball and to continue playing after high school. So just even if you're not a baseball fan, just if you're a fan of sports or just a fan of seeing a young individual go to the next level and continue his dream, just by donating to a HBCU, that's going to just help continue that legacy and providing a resource for individuals, like I said, that can't go to a Power Five and play. HBCU is that other option.
Here's what I want to make clear to people that are listening. When you invest in an HBCU program, you're not just funding a team. You are funding representation. You're funding a pipeline. You're funding institutional credibility. You're funding the narrative that Black institutions produce excellence. Okay? We can't forget that. The narrative doesn't fund itself. We need everybody to participate, or definitely don't get to complaining about what you don't see at the next level. It's very important. Coach, let the people know how they will be able to participate in the fundraising and just supporting you and the program moving forward.
One can follow our page on social media, Delaware State University Baseball. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So follow us and see how we're doing during the course of the year. And for those that donate, follow, see how the program's doing, and see how your donations are working. That's one way. Another way is, I know there's going to be a link provided on this platform that is a way you can donate directly to our program. Once this fundraiser kicks off, and with the link that's going to be shared, it's only going to run for 30 days. So you have a total of 30 days where you can donate to our program and help us, reach our goal and, try to take our program to that next level.
Thank you for that. And it'll definitely be going out in the Substack, guys. So anybody that's not subscribed, please head over to the Substack, Control the Narrative. It will be in the newsletter. It will be in the captions of this. It will be everywhere because it's important. Coach Swann, I want to thank you for taking the time today. You have done kind of a soft launch with me, and I'm appreciative of that. You could have coached quietly. You could have just, kept this within your circle of people or your small community, and you took the time to come here to talk about it. And I appreciate that because people don't know what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? They just assume programs have money. They assume they'll be fine. They'll assume that they have uniforms and they have batting cages. They just assume. And we want to make sure that they don't have to assume. We'll let you know. So thank you again for being here. You guys make sure that you tap in, stay connected. I'll be sharing more information about the program. Okay, complete disclosure, my son is there. Most of y'all know that. But more so than that, I try to be a little unbiased, but I'm biased. Yes, I am. I'm biased and I'm judgy. But we support the young people being able to have opportunities that maybe we didn't get to have. It's not I didn't get to have it, so they got to figure it out. No, we're going to do better, and we're going to make sure it's better for them. So, with that being said, make sure you stay tapped in. Make sure you continue to control the mic, control the camera, control the room, and always control the narrative. Tonya is my name, and controlling the narrative is my game. If you don't control the narrative, the streets will, and it will not be in your favor. Thank you again for being here, and we'll see you guys next time.